Maerlande. I have one active guest at the moment. I don't know how long. It's Jackalor, one of the administrators of some of the Discords. And I don't know if Jackalor is going to hang around for quite a while or just a little while or what we're going to cover, but if anybody has any particular topics.
I mean, I'm here all night, basically.
Yeah. I have various things I can show, and we'll see if anybody drops in. Frigadin or John, either of you guys got a relatively simple topic to discuss? I know John gave me some topics, but they require preparation, and I ended up spending my night playing Knight in Shining Armor. Yeah, I had a neighbor she got tossed out of her apartment at midnight. It was -10, and she was outside. I didn't know her. Young girl, a young woman, and she was freezing. So I let her come in, use my phone, helped her get her stuff out of because they threw all her stuff all over the lawn.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and the cops came 3 times because the people who threw her out threw a bucket of water on her at -10, and it was just awful. So she slept on my chair, and she'll find, I don't know what she's going to do today, but I've got some of her stuff in here, and it was just one of those. I was watching this thing, kind of just spectating, and I thought everybody was just phoning the cops and closing their doors, and I thought, well, I'm not comfortable leaving somebody. She didn't even have a phone, so I let her use my phone and come warm up and made her tea, and I ended up talking to her, I don't know, for about 4 hours until she fell asleep, and then I went to bed.
Oh,
yeah,
people these days.
People are wiggy. They are cruel and mean and wiggy. So, until somebody comes along, I'd actually like to talk about the Pretender Archtypes. Yeah, the ones that I define, and then some of the others. So, if we drop down here, this is a subset of my written guide. You can't see it, Jack, but on the Twitch, I've brought the written guide over. I think I need number 2. Where's my archetypes? This comes up very regularly, so let's see if we can find the archetypes. This is grand strategies, late game. No.
I was looking at your old stream. I was like, why is this not?
Oh, yeah. No, here we go. Analyzing opponents. I think it's number 4. Is when I go, let's make a pretender. Okay, here we are, the Pretender Archtypes. So we'll turn off some mods and drop that down. Actually, I need that to be a little bit smaller. And some people break these up a little differently. I know Lucid, it's very, very close. His version, his version of the archetypes is on YouTube, not written, but so I'll just back it up, and I'm going to type here in the chat saying I'm going to do Pretender Archetypes for the moment. So you can see I kind of break it down, and some of these are a little bit similar to each other, but I've got Awake Expander, Awake High Bless for incarnate blesses, just a bless for various purposes. Site Searching Rainbow, which is also usually a Forging Rainbow, but I split them up. They're almost the same. The Awake Research Rainbow, Critical Spell Pretender, so maybe you want to get enough nature to get an early Mother Oak, Pure Scales, and then this one, the Diversity Pretender, is kind of an oddball. And then I know that Lucid also includes what he calls the Defender, which is generally a Titan with full slots that's dormant to come out just in time to help you if you get rushed.
Okay, apparently I'm having issues with the stream. It's saying it's ended.
On my Twitch?
Am I not watching the proper thing? A fucking Twitch is weird.
might be being weird on you because I can quickly pop over to my Twitch, but I have to be sure that I mute it.
Oh yeah, I was watching the previous broadcast, which was actually current. Yeah.
Okay,
it's
so,
under that. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, so do you have any Pretender sort of, you know what I mean by an archetype? You got any others that you personally like to use?
You know, wasn't played this seriously, so I never really bothered with the archetype. Mostly I just lumped them into mobiles, rainbows, and fucking
monsters, or
monsters.
Yeah. So
But,
well, and that's not all that far from mine. Is most of mine are also based on that same division. I've added a couple variations of some of them.
yeah, I understand that.
So you could.
Honestly,
That's a good point. That
yeah.
you could do the same thing just by chassis type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's
So honestly, the issue with I have with the defender type is that it requires you to go pretty decently high into construction.
Yes, it does.
Early on, which is an issue because construction doesn't do you much good unless you've got fuckable dudes. At which point you don't need the defender as much.
Yeah, it's a bit of an oddball. I don't think I've ever made one, but it was one that Lucid brought up, and I just wanted to touch on it. Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to go early construction, it's usually for some critical item, say in construction 2, that I know I'm going to need.
Like,
well,
I think the earliest you can do with tugging is you either go defense tugging with like main gauches of carrying.
Mm-hmm.
That's beside the point, honestly.
Well, great swords of sharpnesses are 2, aren't they? Or swords of sharpness.
Yes, but the issue generally those are anti-thugging rather than actually thugging.
Well, I guess that depends on your viewpoint, because I know that some guys really promote that really early cheap thugs and swords of sharpness in the first year.
Yeah, I can see that working. It's just they don't have the ability to deal with just mass PD.
Well, they normally include that with a point buffing combination, is what I've seen people talk about.
Point buffing.
Yeah, put the 2 together, right?
So early. I mean, yeah, this is a lot of mages really early.
Well, I did a stream on it, and I made an attempt to. I mean, I use the point buffing and have for years, but generally, as the spells are normally researched, I've never made a specific effort to rush the point buffing spells. And I'm not a big fan of Magi moving out into first year.
I mean, I think, for example, as you know, I personally like site searching hard early because you just need gems that badly.
Yeah.
For basically everything.
Yeah, I can see that.
But for other nations, generally, I'm willing to wait a bit to get some research done so I can cast some spells before I start going into using magic.
Yeah. I'm pretty much with you on that one.
Other than that, as far as pretenders go, I think going for a pretender that does does your cat for a certain spell, unless that spell is like converts.
Right.
You're probably not going to win with that fight. Because you're sacrificing like pretenders. The idea of a pretender isn't to build a strategy around the pretender, but around the nation the pretender is built. The pretender is built on the nation around the pretender.
Well, and I think you can combine that one, right? Like, let's say we go with Pan. I'm just going to grab it, which is a good nation for rushing Mother Oak. And so you grab an awake bull and, maybe just some cheapo bless. not cheap, but basic. And now you've doubled it up. You've got a decent bless. And you could change.
There's nothing on Pangea.
Yeah, no, good point. So I guess I don't know what I'd use otherwise.
I would honestly go poison resistance and a low light vision.
Yeah, that's not bad at all, and I got one more point for. So I mean, I've deliberately.
HP, okay.
Yeah, I've deliberately added the extra nature point to make Mother Oak.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, because you don't have hands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the issue is that Pangea can just cast it natively with a. I think it's a 2.5% chance on that pan.
Yeah, a Lucky Pan and a Thistle Mace. So this might not be a good example. Anyways, it was just. Well, it was the easiest example I could quickly think of.
Yeah. I mean, for early, I can definitely see doing that.
But you could also say for
early Dungeon Global. But
you know, for Pangea, you could go a Great Mother and go dormant, and then you know do something substantially more. I mean, well, I don't think you'd want regen on Pan, but because she's got because she's got the hands, you could drop it to 4, and then you know you could go this kind of bless.
Might pump it up to E6 to get strength plus 4.
Could do that instead. Absolutely. Yeah, for white centaurs, that's probably a really solid choice. So what you're doing here is and these are all not incarnate blesses, so you get them at the beginning. Still pretty good scales, and you've put 2 of those archetypes together, both a viable bless, an inexpensive, actually 3, because you're a hybrid.
And poison resistance is mostly so you can cast foul vapors with your hands.
Exactly.
Which is key to Pangea's strategy.
Yeah.
And it means your white centaurs also don't need to be specifically fluffed with poison resistance.
So I'm just going to type. So that's kind of that archetype. So so that is what we call the what I've listed as my number, the number 7, but it's a combo of other things. Now, it's a good place to jump into Awake Expander. I could I could show what I made, since all my neighbors have seen it anyways. So here's a classic Awake Expander.
The guide is in the way.
I'll get it there. Just give me a sec. I double screen all this stuff, so it kind of keeps me hopping.
Yeah, I understand.
But there's Lanka. There's a Lanka option. So that's a classic Awake Expander. This one's a little more expensive with regen, but with big hefty demons, that's a pretty good bless.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you can never go wrong with regen Awake.
Unless you've got little tiny sacreds. I wouldn't use it on Bandar Log, for example.
Then it's actually pretty useful. Since if they have decent pop, they can also bounce up their survival rate a lot.
Have you seen the new Ruby Discourse podcast?
Nope.
Pencil's put it up on the wiki. It's the guys from the Ruby Discord, which is what used to be kind of the Something Awful, but is sort of got a life of its own. They started a podcast, and one of the things they were laughing at is they call the fire and shock resist, they call it the Coward's Bless, because it's so darn useful and so cheap. But it's perfectly valid. I think it's an excellent bless.
Fire and shock is probably one of the best incarnate blesses in the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the other earth blesses are just not as generally useful. They're good, but...
I mean, I'd argue larger can be very crucial if you want to do repel stuff. And of course...
So I've got a
strength is I'm a big fan of strength buffs for
Here's
your Berserkers.
here's a funny one.
Like, yeah,
Well, I subbed into a late game Pangea, and he went pretty much this. A little bit different, but basically, what am I missing for the larger? Where did it go? There it is. He went larger, and then just mixed stat blesses, and then he used the big minotaurs for his expansion.
ooh,
It, what were they called?
the Grove.
Yeah,
No, not the Grove Guard, but
the commanders.
the Keepers of Traditions.
That's it, keepers of the tradition. So there they all honking big, running around, and then various. I think he did some resistance. He had 3 or 4 resistances. So he had. I'm still playing this game, and then just tidbits here or there. The only thing I really didn't like was the Astral One. Not so much because I worried about my Magic Duel, because I really never took the. Oh, and he used the Frostfather. But what I didn't like about Astral One was you can't forge anything. Just going to even Astral 2, but preferably, for the cost. So it was something along these lines. It might have been. No, that doesn't work.
I mean, Astral 1 is decent for LA Pangea because it gives you the Moonbind Bracelet so you can cast the bigger nature spells. But
That's
I would
true.
definitely not go with Astral 1.
No, but it sure would have been nice with all your pans. Or it sure would have been nice for this guy to be able to make crystal coins in a cap, because then he's a heck of a lot more functional.
Also, the fact that you can give the boosters to your Centaur Sages, which are
Right.
excellent mages, some of the best of the age.
Exactly. And, just simply grabbing magic weapons here would have come in nicely with everything else.
Yeah, what LA Pangea really lacks is someone to cast Light of the Northern stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Or a banger.
Well, but you can communion that up.
Yeah, that slows you down by at least 3 turns.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so
It's 2 turns to cast Light of the Northern Star, and then 1 turn to communion up first.
exactly, like if we back out to late age Pangea, so that we can.
Yeah, you can just do the Asian.
You look at these guys. These are, like you said, these are a wonderful mage, and lots of useful cross paths. You can communion up a huge pile of useful spells. But a little bit of a few boosters, like you said, a Starshine Skullcap and a Crystal Coin would make a significant difference.
But yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's an example of an incarnate bless, or not incarnate bless with a rainbow. That's one thing. So the idea of going with something dormant and sticking with stat blesses. For anybody wondering, a stat bless, people mean like attack skill, defense skill, that sort of thing. But multiple resistance blesses are also very valid. So that's.
The issue with resistance is they don't actually help you win fights. It makes them not die.
Yeah. But the advantage is they don't lose their power later in the game. So what have we've kind of covered a couple of examples here of some interesting ideas for some of these archetypes. did in the Wake expander. So
What do you think about Hellblesses?
about what?
Hellblesses.
I don't play them very often. My problem with Hellbless, you're going to be going awake, your scales are terrible, and you bet the farm that you're going to be able to kill somebody quick. And if you do, great. But if you rushing, I guess, in my opinion, rushing is a high risk, high reward strategy. So when it works, it's great. When it doesn't, you're out of the game. And I did that previous stream on rush defense, highlighting an example where I did get rushed. It wasn't so much a hell bless, but it was a very good bless. I got rushed. We eventually were both killed, although he died before me. But so the net result is it took both of us out of the game. It didn't win it for him, and it lost it for me. So I haven't done a rush strategy in quite a while. I have nothing wrong with it. I don't see anything wrong with it. I think you really got to be sure. Like, what's a classic? Helheim, right?
Yeah, Helheim is pretty classic.
Yeah,
But
so
really, what you want, if you want classic Hellblesses, it's Vanheim.
yeah. So now I haven't played Vanheim in many years. So what would you pick for? Let's build one. Would you go with a monolith, or would you be
Pretender calculator? Let's see here.
Would you be grabbing a? Would you be grabbing something like quickness?
No, not on Vanheim.
Okay. What would be the bless you're targeting?
Stuff that is cheap and effective, while also not requiring stuff that doesn't require the positive skills like quickness, ethereal, and of course those others. Luck. Those all require positive skills, so they're kind of out of the box immediately.
So, say with a monolith.
So what you want is, probably a monolith, but I was thinking Fate Weaving and Strength is as well as Magic Weapon. The issue with Fate Weaving is you don't get Magic Weapons.
Alright, so, I need a lot more Astral.
Fate Weaving is great, especially
And then two strength or one?
2 strength, but picking up blood as well.
And, okay. So, strength of the flesh?
Yeah, strength of the flesh as well.
Oh, wow,
Like,
okay.
if you want its strength,
And then what about,
so high,
about the nature bless? Anything?
I mean, you could probably honestly just pick. You can't go wrong with just poison resistance and undying.
Yeah.
Fucking
Low light.
low light vision.
Right. So we're going to have to trash our scales pretty hard, so we'll go cold 2, I'm sure.
Cold 3 every time.
3, I mean. Probably more misfortune. Geez, we just about... I'm not really sure what other scales... I've still got 1 extra point, so I guess I take a hit point.
At least 1 production.
Okay.
And probably order 2. Or order 1.
So then I've got a trash drain or death. I got...
Honestly, trash. If you're doing Hellbless, just trash both death and the drain.
And... Alright, and then... Dawn 6,
you
so...
You probably only need like 6 Dominion, because that gives you just a squad of 5.
Well, yeah, and 6 works out with not many leftover points. So that's so there's a Vanheim. Yeah, I can see that one.
The idea would be, of course, picking up Strength of the Flesh twice as well, so you have plus 8 strength, and all of a sudden the Van Heroes would be like, what? When berserked?
No, that works.
36 damage?
Although paying for that's pretty brutal, but...
Oh, yeah.
Holy cow. Okay, so there you go. So, I mean, now you're just wiping everything off the map with the very few Van Heers you can afford.
I mean, binders are surprisingly cheap. They're like, what, 50 gold?
Yeah, and I
45?
mean, I'm sure that they'll work in little groups of 5 or 6 with
Yeah, I mean,
this.
you can raid them with them pretty hard since they're still stealthy for whatever different reason.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, that's a good example of a Hellbless, definitely. So what you've done here is you've got almost entirely it's an offensive bless. Now, Fate Weaving, I've not used it, but you actually have to be hit, right? But you don't have to be damaged.
Yes.
So,
You have to be hit.
so
which notably means, which synchronizes as well with Berserker because you want to get hit anyway.
Okay.
Not that.
Do you have to
The
be?
issue with this one is that there's not much ability to stay alive long enough to get berserked.
Okay.
So, for example, giants will, you'll kill the giants like every time.
Right.
You'll probably lose some money as to that.
Right. And now I've got a question on Fate Weaving. Does it work on a shield parry?
Van Hales don't have shields.
Okay. Never mind then.
You can check the nation description units.
Yeah, I got a Van Heers. Oh, these guys. Oh, I thought you were going with the cavalry. Oh.
No, that's MA and LA Van Halen.
Oh. Oh, totally. So
these bad boys, and you're at a 27 damage broadsword and a 29 damage axe.
Yeah.
And then after the berserk, they're all of a sudden up to 30.
Well,
and 33.
And they are cheap for that. Plus,
yeah,
you've got good basic attack, and then once you're berserk,
plus
that goes up.
Plus 5 berserker.
Oh my gosh, yeah, okay. So you don't need attack bless. I was wondering about needing attack bless, but
I mean, you can definitely pick it up. It's good against stuff like Helheims. It's good for fighting other sacreds like the Hellherdings or the Thrata warriors.
But if you're doing that, then you're just about at the point of you're better off to maybe get a different chassis. Because
I mean, I'll check actually. The Pretender Archtypes is actually really good at this.
Yeah, I don't use it very often, but because the thing about immobiles is it's not bad buying one additional path, but it gets awfully expensive with more than one. Anyways, there's...
It's technically cheaper to go with the eldest dwarf. No, the Fountain of Blood is technically cheaper if you drop nature.
Oh.
By 4 points.
Oh, okay. Okay. If you wanted to add fire, you mean?
No, if you drop nature, but yeah, and if you pick up fire instead of nature, you have the eldest dwarf power, which is the cheapest.
Right.
You could always go and make it be interesting and just pick non-incarnate blesses and just magic weapons or magic resistance.
Yeah, but I usually consider, those a little bit different as an archetype. Incarnate versus, but same idea. You can build a vicious bless with not incarnate blesses.
Yeah. Personally,
okay.
I think incarnate blesses are overvalued. If you bump them all down by like 1 or 2 points each, they'd probably still be a lot more valid to use.
Well, there's
non-rush strategies.
Yeah, there's a lot of blesses that nobody uses because they're overpriced.
Weakness. Why would you take 10 points?
I know.
And the magic skills.
Yeah.
And then Ethereal is just oof. No.
Yeah. No, those are very... And the other one that you rarely see people use, let's just very quickly look. Where were we? We'll go back to that monolith for a second. You almost never seen anybody use fortitude.
Yeah, not anymore. When it was like Earth 7, it was actually pretty used.
Yeah, but I mean,
it was 8 was past, like before Nabai even, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. And fire shock resist so much cheaper. And then hard skin, 5 natural works on some things, but it's not that amazing. Plus, the other thing I've noticed a lot of people do is if they really want to add a little natural protection, they just grab Stygian flesh.
Don't they usually just grab buckskin? It's basically Stygian flesh, except you get nature instead.
I guess it depends on which one you want more. For expansion, Stygian flesh works well because there's very little magic weapons.
Yeah, the issue is when it comes to magic, Stygian flesh falls off really quickly.
It does. I have a game that I am streaming with Lucid where we were teammates. We went with Stygian flesh because Ulm was the pretender in a Disciples game, and he went dirt cheap, death and blood. So it was basically a scales game. And we just grabbed the Stygian because he needed the death for his vampires anyways.
Ooh,
Elium, yeah. Elium, Atlantis, and Utgard. So we didn't particularly need any bless at all.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to bless gun buildings?
No, actually, the one thing it made a significant difference was on my Arsetuts. It kicked them up to 23 protection, so that was kind of nice in the early game.
Yeah, Arsetuts are actually sleeper circles. They're actually really effective against a lot of things because the bone blades are weapons that cause a really good sense effect.
Exactly. And we went Blood Surge, I think. Like I could.
At that point, you're just not even trying anymore about picking something that isn't like horribly overpowered.
No, we were just trying to get. He needed Death 3, Blood 3, and so So then adding the extra, so he just grabbed a Demi-Lich, and he just went with that, right? Cheap like borscht, and great scales. So it was basically a scales build with a token bless on the side.
Yeah. And Blood Search is ridiculous. It is underpriced, like it is.
Yep. Everybody takes it.
I'm also at how incredibly overpowered Blood Search is, honestly.
Well, I haven't figured out how, and I got really busy with increasing my streams to daily. But I would like to do something I did. You might not have been around back in. I think it was just before Dominions 4 came out. I did a poll where I polled everybody for their favorite Pretender designs, favorite blesses. And the whole idea was just to collect sort of data about the meta on what's the most popular to help discuss with Illwinter balancing blesses. Because if everybody takes a bless, then it's probably too cheap. And if you did that now again, but that was easier when we used forums where you could poll. It's kind of hard to build a poll now in all the different discords, because I'd like to collect that information all across the discords and the forums and just get it and make it a really easy poll. You just put in your most favorite and least favorite bless, or top 5 or something. And that data, I took that into the beta with Winter, and we discussed it, and they liked that because it's actual data. And this might bring up a topic. If you're going to request something on a wish list, you need some evidence. Like, you can't just say, I like this, or I think this is too strong, or this is too weak. You need to provide some. If you want Illwinter to really pay attention, you want to provide some evidence to say, I've done this analysis, here's my information and my data. I can demonstrate why you should nerf this or you should buff that.
Or if you just be like me and just tell them, hey, Therigs don't have fortune teller despite them all saying they have it. Could you add that?
Oh, but that's a bug, and they're really good. If you can get balance changes through if you can demonstrate that they don't match the lore or they're a bug or something. But when people want to have a balance change from Illwinter that is a more substantial thing, to have success getting that through, you should make a really clear, concise, and polite argument, and then it may happen.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you right away, if you're talking to Illwinter and you get rude, you just get ignored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have a tendency to be like that.
Well, they're very...
They're just people. They do this as a hobby. They don't do this to get assaulted verbally.
Exactly, and that's why they don't have like a community manager, and they just use volunteers to deal with that stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, those are just little sideline hints for anybody that... But this is a good example. Now, this is for specifically a Disciples game, but this is a good example of basically a Scales Pretender. Mm-hmm. And I think most Scales Pretender... Yeah. Oh, go ahead. You want to do a...
Through Scales Pretender, you go create a Pretender card.
Mm-hmm.
Middle Ages.
Yep.
Caelum.
Yep.
Archseraph.
Archseraph. This one? Oh, dirt cheap. Okay.
Yeah. Just pick air to it.
Imprisoned. Yeah. Okay. Oh,
air
2. Yeah, there you go.
Then you just pump all the scales up and you go, the real bliss was in your heart.
And then maybe just 4. Mm-hmm. Oh, I guess you can buy some more Dominion because you got nothing. Or buy a little magic. Because now you've maxed everything. So you can either...
Honestly, I think really a bit high Dominion is probably the better choice. Because you want to spread your scales around a lot.
Well, but this is nice. Grab an Air 4. But...
I mean, you have plenty... Caelum has like tons of that.
Yeah, so you could... There you go. So we've kind of spent our points. Can't really get...
You have 1 point left you spend on the path.
That's right. So go to air and maybe water. No. Fire?
No.
I don't know. I don't know what I'd buy.
Earth.
Earth? Yeah. Oh, yeah, air and earth. Whoops. Yeah, sure. There you go. Yeah, you're right. That's about as most scales as you can possibly get.
Yeah.
If you did want more Dominion, then you'd want to take an immobile.
Oh, yeah.
If that was...
Golden Idol is blatantly overpowered.
Right.
Because it is cheap as if.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good example of the sort of pushing a Scales Pretender to the ultimate. Now, I got a question for you. Would you play Caelum with Scales?
Oh, yes. Every day.
Okay. Okay.
Like, if you go to the nation description of units, you have 2 sacreds.
Yep. Oh, I know the sacreds are crap.
Yeah. The only sacred commander they have is an H1.
Yeah.
But, like, the Temple Guard are terrible units.
Mm-hmm.
They are humans.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, no, well, they're also incredibly slow. You can never...
kind of fast. The Catholic 12 is pretty high for their protection.
I suppose, yeah. But I mean, when you're combining that with basically a nation with mobility, and then... I didn't think they had another sacred, do they? Oh.
Yeah,
oh God. Sacred Archers.
Magic short bows.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what you might want to do with that, if anything.
They can hit Euro beams from range of 35 squares.
See, I haven't attempted to use Sacred Archers till they took away the... Do you remember the old Dominions 3 Death Bless?
Before my time.
Oh, well, in Dominions 3, the Death Bless caused afflictions. It caused a lot of afflictions. So there was I used it once or twice. There was kind of a meme build where you could use Sacred Archers and just spam arrows and cause afflictions all over the place. It wasn't particularly good, but it was funny. But that was the last time I ever bothered with Sacred Archers.
Yeah.
And I mean, on that topic, if we back out to maybe the one sacred archer that used to be kind of cool, which was Jianqi's. But then there's something weird has changed with fear and these howling bows. And I know Logie has been trying to figure out just exactly how this lesser fear works. It doesn't really indicate here, does it work on hit, or doesn't seem to have an area of effect. Does it work on damage? You know, just exactly how does it work? Doesn't say that here.
At the bottom of the toolkit, it does say it's something from damage, but that might be lying. I mean, that's not the first read lies to you.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. Oh, there we go. Anyone wounded will be hit by fear. But, you know, a base damage of 9, and it's late age. Well, 13.
I mean, the Howling Bow does by base more same damage as the Frostbow of MOAK.
Yeah, but you're paying 50 gold per bow. So, are you ever going to have enough of these? And then, so anyways, these were in. I did play back in Dominions 3 a game with these where I deliberately blessed for the Howling Bow. And it was kind of funny. But I don't know if there's any viable... And see, the best sacreds for ranged are the Mind Blaster ones, but none of the blesses work on Mind Blast.
Penetration does.
Yes, penetration. But that's... You could argue that's such a darn good bless for any Astral Nation anyways.
I mean, the only sacred Mind Blasters that aren't commanders are the Ulms.
No, the Gibadai.
Oh, yeah. I don't count those because they're aquatic.
Yeah, they're... And without...
There's not a single way to get a non-aquatic unit on land. Ever.
Well, and that's a balance issue that we've requested for 10 years. You know, please give us air-breathing items for troops.
Wasn't this last time people asked about that actively and like a lot? They made it so a couldn't blast instead.
I don't know if those are related. I was actually in hospital with cancer during the last bit of Dom 5, so I missed almost all of the last changes.
This was like Dom 4, I think. When you
yeah.
did the underwater remake.
Yeah. See, and modders have done all kinds of things to make water get on land better and land get in water easier.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that got integrated, but some didn't. But there's still nothing anybody can do with the fact that air breathing for troops doesn't exist in the game. So you have to have a code change to do that. So it has to be Illwinter. Anyways, we could just show those for a second. They're a bit of a hilarious unit. Where are we here? These guys. So I mean, 50 gold. They're stuck in the water. In the water, they're okay, but they really don't get you anything over the 40 gold version.
Yeah. Worst part is they cost like twice the amount of rep points as Ulms.
Yeah. And
Ulms cost like 21 rep points.
Yeah.
And these guys cost 41.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of reasons they're a problem. But you do get Mind Blasters on the Andreless. But by the time you've got a land fort, this is not something you can rely on.
Yeah, the fun thing to note, I think Andrelets have the lowest max age in the entire game.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, age 1. Max age is 5. Yeah, they're anyways, early age Rillier is a nation with problems. Huge problems. I've tried playing it.
This is correct.
Well, I've played it twice now. Once solo in Dominions 5, once solo and once in a Disciples game. And both times I pulled my hair out trying to do something useful. It was better in Disciples.
I mean honestly, let me put it this way. At least they're not Pelagia in every.
Yeah. But, you know, if you're building an early age Disciples team and you want to add an Astral Nation, you've got a lot better choices. Arco being probably the greatest.
I mean, yeah.
So, now if we, I'm just going to jump back quickly here. So we've sort of like flying along. We've covered Awake Expanders. We've covered an example of a high bless. We've covered, well, a generic bless. We've covered a couple versions. So the site searching rainbow, huh? I'll sort of indicate. I mean, there is a, and this kind of combines a couple of options, and maybe we'll pick somebody like, what's a nation that really needs more diversity? You think of one?
Caelum, MA.
Middle-aged Caelum. Okay, good call. So you have lots of air and water, a teeny tiny bit of astral and death. These are good mages. And then more air and water and more air. So yes, so this is a nation where...
Although not technically they get fire on the Seraphins.
Okay. So here's an example where a forging site searcher, I would probably pick a great enchantress for the free pearls, but you know, mix it up. I definitely go dormant for the points, and then you're kind of looking at pretty much 3 in everything, 4 in astral, and then grab yourself, you know, I don't know. You're not using your sacreds, so you might as well do this for your magi. Get some fire resist. Get some shock resist.
I mean, you'd have to forge sacred t-shirts for the magi.
Oh, right. Yeah. So, who knows? I'm not going to spend much effort on the, you know, I mean, maybe you want to try to thug something. I suppose you could thug, so you could go... Anyways, all of this is sort of just pick and muddle of various things. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably, if it was for Magi or something, I'd grab a couple. It's just an example. And then Farcaster, Arcane Finesse, probably, for this kind of, yeah, for this kind of concept. I wouldn't do magic weapons, because that's only useful in troops.
I mean, you don't... Magic weapons... Caelum is the one nation. Magic weapons literally does nothing. There's every unit in the entire nation as a magic weapon.
Yeah. And then I don't know what you... I mean, maybe just whatever the heck. This is all just sort of just...
Uncommon weapons, yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
Because, as I said, your Seraphins will actually like under command.
Okay.
Because you will be casting a lot of what's it called? Corpse constructs.
Right. Good point. Yes, you will make a lot of corpse
your
constructs.
under command is actually
And then I guess you're just gonna grab hit points or something.
Yeah, basically just hit points.
Yeah. But the whole idea behind this one is now you can forge anything in the game, and on turn 12 you can come out and get yourself a huge pile of gems. And given that this is definitely a gem-based concept, I'd be going Turmoil Luck and then play with your other scales to taste. You know, maybe grab some magic or some growth or whatever. It doesn't particularly matter because this is a site searcher, researcher, forger, sort of all in one. So that's a I have now the nation I've actually used this design for is not Caelum. It was Patala. And the reason for that is so you get yourself blood going. And then I grab the cheapest, which is the Maharishi. So a similar idea, you're just taking a mix of light blesses, things that can help your, and you've got a lot of thugs. So for this one, I'd be looking at possibly defense instead of the resistances. But it's much the same idea. and maybe Blood Surge because you got the sacred blood summons, because you've got all the Lanka summons. So this is actually something I've played, and to match up with all those gems, I went Turmoil Luck to pay for it. So there's a it's an example of a combination of, you know, a multi-purpose rainbow that'll get you that starting blood and so on and so forth. The other reason, particularly for luck in this case, is you do really want to get your heroes. But I like playing luck. It's just I don't like playing misfortune, and that has nothing to do with its value. I just I find misfortune exasperating.
Personally, like I main Hinnom and Caelum, and usually since we're playing multi-heroes, Caelum actually has a really excellent multi-heroes.
Yeah.
S3 H3 Seraphines.
Mm-hmm.
And fun thing to note about the multi-heroes of MA Caelum, they get a out-of-the-box light SC.
Out of the box what?
And out of the box light SC / heavy thumb.
Oh, yes. Okay, right.
It's the harsh. I have no idea how to spell it. How to say this?
All right. Yeah, type it somewhere.
Get there.
Yeah.
I don't have a mouse loaded. But like.
Are you talking about a shield?
No, it's a hero for MA Caelum. He has basically a two-handed frostband, or a bunch of other stuff, some armor and a crown, as well as being an A2 water 2 H3.
Okay.
And the fun thing is, he can, out of the box, expand.
Well, for some reason, I'm not... The mod inspector's disappeared on me. What have I got going on here? Oh, just for my stream, I'm trying to pull the mod inspector over and look at that hero. But I got something is a little messed up here in my setup.
Let me try and reload the inspector where the heroes active.
No, it's in my streaming software. It's got both of my extra windows. Well, I know what I'll do. I'll just close this.
But yeah, honestly, I think the main reason you pick luck is not for the events, but for the heroes.
Right.
Especially if you're playing with worthy heroes. Because if you pick Misfortune 3, it means you can never get a hero for that nation.
Yes. Yeah. No, and I like playing with heroes. Again, it's just favoritism.
Okay. The second Heavenborn, Hush-Dharma.
Well, for whatever reason, I can't seem to fix my problem with... Can't seem to fix my problem that the inspector won't show up anymore. What the heck? Sure. Well, maybe I just need to make a new window. Yeah, I'll just make a new window.
Yeah. So he's of course sacred. This is holy 3. Oh, he's a water 3 air 3, not water 2 air 3. So he has disbelieve illusions, which is basically pointless. But he has R4, Cold Aura 9, Glamour, Spirit Sight, Need Not Eat, and is of course flying because Caelum, and then of course has the very which is a big ass frostbite.
Interesting. I'm typing away here like a fiend trying to get this fixed. There it is. Alright, okay. Let me see if I can find the one you're talking about. So I'm in units. And can I select here? Now, is this with worthy heroes loaded or just in regular?
This is with worthy heroes loaded.
With worthy heroes loaded? Okay, let's load that. Worthy heroes, worthy heroes. There we go.
You can also be High Seraphim multi-hero if you check the heroes for Caelum.
Yep, I'm about to check heroes here, so let's set middle-aged Caelum. And heroes. Holy crap! That's a lot of heroes. Oh, I should have national only. There we go. So, the High Seraphim. Yeah, nice. Nice hero. And then, which is the other one you really like? That second Heavenborn?
The second Heavenborn.
Oh my, yeah. Yeah, pretty cool. And what about this Harab Seraphim? Oh, Death 3. Hey, that's kind of nice. But it's a unique. So, but the High Seraphim's a multi, so you could get multiple of them. What's this Storm Knight?
Yeah. I usually, when I run and make Caelum, get like 2 or 3 of them by year 2.
Nice.
Because they are not limited by the
Exactly. Exactly. What's a sacred one? Oh, that's nothing much.
Other than that, the other 2, the non-mages, are the sacred one and the Storm Knight. Those
right.
are pretty uninspiring.
Well, so. If you don't have any magic, the Storm Knight's pretty limited. Probably the only really good thing about the sacred one is if you did need to lead walking troops.
I mean, the real reason you care about the sacred one is because he is an healthy free and thus can claim those.
Yeah, yeah.
You can never have enough of those.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, those are pretty fun. See, when I was talking about Patala, the heroes that you really, really want is it's really nice to get this Black Terror early to Death Search. This Ancient Ape is excellent. And then the Golden Naga is the multi... Oh, it used to be a multi-hero. It's not anymore. That's... So, you know, these combinations give you three additional paths that you normally don't have. Oh, and then you've also got the Fallen. So Patal is another nation where the heroes can open up tremendous amounts of diversity. And you could argue that if you're trying to get heroes or hoping you'll get heroes, that whole idea of the site-searching rainbow sort of falls off. So then you could, if I jump back to, you know, a possible Patala build for trying to move into blood, if you just wanted to do that to get yourself a start, then it makes an awful lot of sense to grab a fountain with some air magic. And then site search capital for a little bit, and I'd probably throw Astral 3 on it so you can move it. But that's a lot better scales, and it solves the basic issue of now I can get the Blood Slaves to get started with going up my Lanka summons. So that's kind of fun. Alright, now we got to open the Grog mission again and have a quick look at those archetypes. It's been a good topic. Just out of the blue.
I think, the Golden Naga is what used to be a Pretender back in Dom 2.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Didn't realize that. It's too bad it isn't still a
All the
pretender.
Tartarians, same thing. They were all used to be pretenders back in Dom 2 or before.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Which is why their art sucks, because they were literally just copy-pasted, basically, after they were undidified.
So going back to the archetypes, we've definitely covered pretty much all of them. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these are... splitting them up into separate archetypes is maybe too much breakdown, too much granularity, in that so many of them overlap. And your idea of just... I might edit my blog here and include your idea of just thinking of the archetypes of the 4 styles of chassis. Immobile, titans, monsters, and rainbows. Because that's a little bit simpler than what I've put together here. I think that's useful. Well, okay. I'm going to pause for just a moment for a human biology break, and I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back.
So am I.
Good. So, I think you've noticed this week I decided that I want to start being more strict about my schedule for streaming, and so I've set it for 2 hours every weekday, and it's at this 11 a.m. my time, so I kind of picked that partly because it's one of my most alert times of the day, and as well it fits in with a lot of the Europeans, because it's just early evening for you, right?
Yeah, your streams have been a very good timing from my part at least.
Yeah, exactly, John. Yeah, and welcome to talking. So I think I'm done with this topic. Now I know John wanted to talk about Ulm, but I don't want to build your pretender sitting here. But let's have a look.
Yeah, let's be a little bit cautious about showing off the pretender.
Yeah, we won't show your ideas at all. But what we could do. Now, are you playing with any mods?
No, that's a thing. Or it has 2 mods, but only like game mods.
And you're doing early age.
Yes.
So we can just kind of start this with just an overview. So just working our way through. So that's a pretty good scout. To be honest, that's a scout that could probably take very light province defense.
What are you looking at?
I'm looking at... No, because I don't like using fort turns for scouts. The one time I use fort turns for scouts is if you build a fort before you get the lab or temple up, I'll make some scouts while I'm bringing the mage over.
What list are we talking about now? What's stuff?
Early age Ulm.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that you can recruit those scouts out of anywhere. That's either
Should say here all force.
It's
Oh, perfect.
only.
Yeah, but I would totally spam those because they're the same price as an independent, and they're significantly stronger. No, you don't want to take more than very low PD, but the ability to shoot for a bit and then run in there and chop everything up, you might even be able to.
Four of these could probably take out. Yeah. I mean, 4 of these could probably take out 6 PD.
I think they could. Yeah. Yeah. That's a cool unit.
I mean, you have so many of them, you might as well have squads of 4 just randomly taking PD, 6 PD provinces.
But the 4 in recruit there in Forest makes that a viable unit. Otherwise, I wouldn't be using fort turns for it. And then same thing with, see, and this is Ulm with all your forge bonus. So these guys, I've seen people actually lightly thug them.
Yeah, I was thinking about using these as if I was to go to war against Yomi, I would use these guys to kill their by all means.
But
that you can make warrior chiefs as well from any forest.
I saw that, yeah. And good stats, strength and attack, or attack and strength and def.
I think I could pick up a couple of swords for this and use them to actually kill the Diamonds.
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah, with swords of sharpness.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Swords of sharpness and all of a sudden they're just beating the shit out of the Diamond.
Yeah. Here, let's bring our great swords of sharpness over to look at. I mean, as so many people have said, turn off the nation.
And also, I've discovered that one of my other opposition is Formoria, so it's going to be giants everywhere.
Formoria? Okay.
Formoria.
Yeah. So we want items and we want sharpness. So depending on what you're trying to do, now I think you're making these for two earth gems a pop. Once you can start making dwarven hammers.
Yeah.
Or is it 1? It's 2, right?
2. 1 is only in the
right.
In the same sentence there, you are also suggesting I should equip all my actual crafters with dwarven hammers.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Probably not all of them, but like a good chunk, like 5-7 at least.
Yeah, don't make more hammers than your continuous forging requirements. So I find most nations 4 hammers is enough for the whole game.
Yeah, I see. Like usually I don't really always craft items. I'm still pretty new at this, so I can be pretty bad at planning stuff. So
sure.
Suddenly I'll have this guy I want to thug out instead of having the items for the thug that I'm building. If you get what I mean?
A lot of players suggest only forge on demand, like just-in-time inventory and manufacturing. So when you have a need for something, then you make it. That's why you don't want too many dwarven hammers, because...
Yeah, but if you're really good, you can time it so that all of the items are done by the time the thug comes there to pick it up. And
yeah, well, I pre-make them depending on if I know what I'm going to need, but I don't make things just in anticipation that maybe I'll need this. The other...
Speed-eyed making anticipation is probably penetration these days.
Yeah. Yes. There's some other generic things I make all the time. But if we look at the Dwarven Hammer, you have to use a pretty valuable mage, and sometimes you got to make earth boots just to make it. It costs you 15, and the discount is 2, maybe 3. So that's not very significant. The payback time is quite a few turns, basically 7 turns for most nations. So you've got to make 7 items before you've paid this thing off. And so there's that to count. And the other thing is really what a Dwarven Hammer does most of the time is it's a form of cost-effective alchemy. You're converting earth gems into some other gem. That's really what it does economically. So if you kind of drill down and think about it as an economist would, what a Dwarven Hammer is a currency exchange.
Yeah, because it gives you that many earth gems extras.
Well, you're spending that many earth gems to save some other gem. So that's really what it does. So a long time ago, an old friend of mine who was really expert at this game, but he's left, he was an actuary in his personal life. And so he had a tendency to look at all of this stuff from a financial and statistical perspective. And he said, really, Dwarven Hammereds could be removed from the game, and it wouldn't change much, because the problem is everybody uses them because they're there, and that kind of distorts the game so that everybody wants to have Earth 3. And if they were just removed, you'd just be forging at the standard price. And then I like the fact that a number of modders have said, well, let's be a little more granular in item pricing. So you've got items that are 2, 3, 7, 8. Because the current pricing at 5, 10, 15, 25, and 40 has very little granularity. So some items never get used because they're just a little bit too expensive.
Right, but could we perhaps take a look at both early and mid-game army compositions?
Let's just maybe go back to finishing up what your troops are.
Yep.
So warrior smiths, you're going to want lots of these, unquestionably.
Yeah, you want to recruit one of these almost every round, yes?
Yeah, because these randoms are amazing, the forging is amazing, lots of things you can do with them.
You'll use them as research monkeys?
They're a good research monkey, they're also a decent, depending on because your shamans,
alternatives to those,
I think they're your only good research monkey, and the problem with shamans is some nice randoms, but the best of them are going to be your Earth 2s, and that's only 1 in 4, and they're terrible at research.
You get Iron of Legion of Steel, yeah?
Well, or just 1 gem. Well, actually, even an Earth 1... No, you don't need a booster, you just need summon Earth power.
I never actually thought of using it that way.
Well, of course.
Nice.
Yeah, I always cast... If I have Earth mages... If I have any elemental mages except air, I try to always cast the Conjuration 3 boost spell.
Yep.
Doesn't work with air because you have to have a storm up. So, these shaman, you're going to want some, but they're no good as a research monkey. And, you know, the death is probably the best of the randoms there. The nature you've got in your big shaman. And these guys, well, sadly they're slow. It's good to get some nature too. How many you need, questionable. But your randoms are garbage at 10% on a slow to recruit. You can make a thistle mace, and once you've got a thistle mace, you have some potential to put up some different buff spells.
Yeah,
Like,
I've seen thistle mace being repeated.
Yeah.
By a lot of other players. I reckon this is an item people love. Like
well, it gives you +1 nature for 10, or in your case 7 nature gems.
Yeah.
Or 6, I guess. That's a pretty big deal because there's a lot of possible spells you might want to cast, protection, all kinds of different things. So you're going to want some of these. So that kind of covers your magi, and then I think Jackler might have another opinion, but I think your kind of go-to. I mean, the Steel Warriors are. I think your internet kicked you there, Jacklor. But, you know, I think that the standard troop, especially for expansion for EA Ulm, is Steel Maidens, and I believe you've been practicing that a lot, right?
Actually, what I've been, if you exit, I've been using the Forest Warriors as my main push for expansion. I would put them on
These guys.
And,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Hello? So what are we talking about now?
I think that the best among the warriors is probably just the normal warrior guy, because he has stealth.
This guy.
yeah,
The actor is honestly not bad.
But then you can't have archers in that. You'd have to have maiden archers in the army.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, you don't need archers. Archers are garbage.
But what do you do with those that you start with? You just disband them?
No, you can't disband anything. You just use them to expand.
And
Yeah,
or
you use them until they die, and then you don't you put them.
Fine, alright, I got you.
well, we should maybe back up just a little. When they shifted to real time, or like the simultaneous real combat in Dominions 5, it totally nerfed archers. So what used to be great in Dominions 3 and 4 became mostly junk. So archers are pretty awfully bad now.
Yeah, I've never actually experienced archers.
Well, that's because they miss. There's been a lot of talk about, and they have done a little bit of patching to improve the accuracy, but the accuracy went way down. The other thing is, it used to be, because it was turn-based, all your archers fired at once, so you had a giant wave of arrows all hitting at once. Now you got this trickling of arrows, and they land all over. So it was...
The issue archers have on top of that is that shields are kind of overpowered.
They are now. Yeah.
Because the math goes down to it's less than a 50% chance to just hit someone, even when the square is filled with units.
Yep.
If they all have shields.
And then you've got to penetrate, and the damage of bows is fairly crappy.
Mm-hmm.
If they've got any armor at all. Yeah, there's just a whole bunch of reasons. Now, crossbows are a little different, but people use a lot of crossbows.
There are, especially in the early age, there are some people who you can make archers against, but I would say I don't know who you're trying to fight against.
Well, you know what I saved my archers for when expanding?
Yeah,
is
I'm fighting against Yomi and Formoria.
Well, you're thinking you will be, right? Because you're not actually at war yet. So maybe you can use diplomacy. But anyways, the one case where I saved my archers is they're great for getting rid of barbarians.
Am I not a barbarian as well?
No, I mean the independent barbarians.
Yeah, but I have no shields.
Well, it doesn't matter.
No, you have shields.
Yeah, but the barbarians don't have range, so you don't care. But just shooting barbarians makes them run away usually before they even get close enough, because they have low morale and no armor.
Too, but you don't have to. You can use archers, and it's probably more efficient.
Yeah. Barbarians and lizards during expansion are the two cases. I mean, I've even used crappy Marcata archers to take out barbarians.
If I understand correctly here, you guys are all of you, it seems, in agreement that I should actually use just regular warrior with stealth to...
Well, Steel Maidens are really good.
So, Steel Maidens are really good too.
Steel Maidens are really good. But I'd honestly suggest using the Axe Warrior, because they even have a throwing weapon as well.
Yeah.
That's the throwing guy. He's got slightly less attack, but it's
the 6 attack, that's basically not. The attack, -1 attack isn't there.
Well, I think that the issue here is...
So the Axe Warrior and the normal warrior are both pretty solid.
Yeah. What you're looking at is number of guys per gold. So the extra 14 gold for the Steel Maidens is going to be more relevant for the extra attack skill when you have to fight a human opponent. But
they have less damage too, don't they?
These short swords, so they deal 1 less damage than a broadsword, and 3 less damage than an axe.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely higher defense though.
Well, in my game, I'm fighting against Abyssia, and they have burning ones. So.
Oh yeah, you want the cheapest.
Yeah, I've found a caveman province, and I'm just making caveman warriors now because they have actual fire resistance and maybe 28 damage.
Yeah.
So. I mean, honest, the issue cavemen have is they're so goddamn expensive. They
but they're not expensive compared to burning ones. So even if I trade 2 caveman for every burning one, I'm still fine with that.
Yeah,
And that's about how they trade
burning ones are
so
just
far.
burning ones are special.
It's a very particular kind of situation.
Yes. I'm saying don't try and rush burning ones as a... It's
No,
not a good idea.
no. So I
No,
mean,
it's not.
so if we're talking about early game, just expansion, I think we're all kind of in agreement that the most guys you can get for the gold is going to do the best, and then save your harder hitting options for when you need them, which is mostly going to be when you're dealing with humans. So if we wanted to talk about, you wanted to talk about some options, so let's just have a look at Yomi for a second. If you think you're going to have to deal with these, well, that's when you're going to want to make a lot of cheap thugs with great swords of sharpness and just chop them up. And they're suicide thugs, but I'd be just chopping them up with warrior chiefs.
Yeah, I don't expect you to survive that.
No.
They have one job, and that is to kill that guy.
Exactly.
One thing to note about warrior chiefs, since they're stealthy, you can magic phase attack the dial.
Could you explain that term?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, but you need air for that, don't you?
If
No.
No.
A warrior chief can magic phase attack a dial by stalking into the province and then attacking when the dial is in the province.
Yeah,
That's not how it works. If you
unstealthing.
break stealth to attack a province, it's only in the magic phase if there's another magic phase attack in the province.
Really?
No.
Yes.
Oh?
Yes,
Really?
that's how it works.
That's
Interesting.
not what I've been told.
I can check, but I believe that is how it works.
Well, that would be worth testing.
That would be worth testing.
Yeah. It used to be that unstealthing was a magic phase attack in prior versions. I wouldn't be surprised if that's changed. But we're actually talking about, sneaking the warrior chiefs around. As far as if you're just killing Yomi troops, well, then you just want the blender effect. The more things hitting, the better.
Most likely, the Diomi is going to be inside of my territory once I start dealing with them.
Probably, yeah. So you could...
because it's probably going to be a reactionary thing from my side trying to deal with them.
Right. Now, I would mention a couple things related to that. The first one is, if you're sending 4 warrior chiefs with 4 great swords of sharpness, send 4 spare warrior chiefs so that if some kill, you keep those great swords. Because you always, if you win a battle, you always get anything that your guys were carrying as loot.
So you just keep them in the back.
Or even just scouts or whatever. Like, I frequently will send something in a battle.
Yeah, because I can attack with 4 of them and keep the other 4 stealthy while I attack.
No, they have to be in the battle.
They need to be in the battle.
Yeah, so you need them on hold times 5, stay behind.
Okay.
And if yeah, and if I was using your warrior chiefs as mini thugs like that, I would give them a little bit of bodyguards, probably 2 to fill the square, so you get full squares. Is that whatever? Doesn't really matter what. Well, the point is, you've got a size 2 guy, 6 size points per square. If you fill the square, any normal attack will hit one of the 3. So that's reducing your chance of getting the warrior chief hit by 2/3.
Yeah, I get your logic.
Remember we talked about Banes with 2 whites? Same idea.
Yep.
Although that also adds the 3 chill auras. But it's a similar idea. Filling squares is a very important thing.
Oh man, I'm starting to love whites by the way. The game I have now.
Yeah.
My whites are wrecking shit.
They're expensive, but they work.
But they almost never die, at least not against the AI.
Yeah. But as far as dealing with Yomi's ordinary troops, there's nothing really much here that's of any great threat to you.
Formoria though, I've never really. I've looked at Yomi very in depth. I'm actually having a test game with them right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like going to depth with them. But Formoria, I have no idea what I'll face.
Anybody know what is a popular bless for Yomi? Because I never play them.
I mean, probably regen and awe.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Because they already have fear, so you're getting stacking effects or synergistic effects.
There's always the idea that you take in a way dragon and take ethereal.
Okay, there's that too, I suppose.
But that's it's
awfully expensive.
It works, but it's not exactly the most. I wouldn't say it's the most effective use of the time.
And if you do see ethereal, then you're going to have to do some serious switching up. Something.
Okay, so if you go from being in hiding, in stealth, in a province, to attacking a province, just normally with nothing else happening, if somebody's moving out of the province, you do not catch them.
Interesting. Okay, so it's not magic phase. Unstealth by itself is not magic phase.
The current bless I have on the Yomi guy is natural protection +5 and awe.
Yeah, so somebody might use that. I don't know why they'd go natural protection, but anyways, but you don't know what your opponent's going to use until you see it. So all you can kind of go by is, popular options. But I can talk a lot more about Formoria. So if we have a quick glance, this, if he goes with the bless, this is Formoria's most cost-effective sacred. The unmarked. Yeah. The giants are too damn big and only have a single attack. And both of them are effectively just big meat. I mean, they've got decent statistics and they do a lot of damage, but they're only going to have, that's only an attack density of 1 attack per square. That's very poor. So one of the ways I managed that is I used a combination of alternating recruitment between Nemedian warriors and Nemedians, so I filled every square. Yeah, it's a little bit tricky, and I can show an example in a minute
and
here.
And then cloud trapezing in does mean that the stealthy unit joins the magic phase attack.
Okay, well there you go. So unstealth with some kind of airdrop creates... Isn't that the weird? That is goofy. Why would...
So the stealthy unit will join whichever the first battle in the provinces. So if you move troops in, they would join that battle instead. If there's no magic phase. But if there's a magic phase, they'll join that one first.
That is totally unintuitive and opaque. Not that that's unique, but that's really weird. So your issue with Formoria is the Formoria player will probably start recruiting these guys for the first while, the Nemedian sorceresses, because they're great, but eventually he's going to need some Formorian kings, and you need them for the really high air and really high death. And
yeah, they have some deep magical attacks.
yeah, the one disadvantage of these guys I've found is their base stats are not very good. Attack skills 12 on a 500 gold unit, you have a hard time hitting. And then this is defense skill with a shield, and it's still shitty. So, as a thug, these guys are, you have to put something for gear on them or you just can't hit anything. But you do have easy access to Frostbrands. So later on you're going to see these cloud trapezing, and they're going to drop Wailing Winds and other big death spells. They're going to drop big air spells. They can blast away with air elementals maybe. They can fly themselves. They can sail. You know,
they can go underwater.
They can go underwater. That is the one time I buy the giants. Is for...
What if you were trying to just, like, I don't know, go through a bunch of protection, like you see in Earthsmith? You buy the giants.
I don't think so. The attack's not high enough.
Well, they have 27 piercing damage, so if the defense isn't important, it's just going through.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I kind of alternated between them. Trouble is, both unmarked and giants are capital only, so it's a tough decision.
Kind of do enough damage anyway.
They really do. And they've got.
I guess the only other reason would be if you know that the other person is taking like earth elementals, or air elementals to fight you with.
Yeah.
And having the size 6 is probably nice.
Now, what I chose in my game, and all my opponents and also not, is I chose a very simple bless. Are we in make pretend? Here we are. So I chose regen and just enough earth to let me earth power. I kind of regret not grabbing fire shock resist, but I didn't. So anyways, so this is what I went with. It was mentioned that I kind of missed the point that it used to be, I got stuck with old memories. It used to be the boar was cheaper than the bull, but they're basically identical, but the bull has more hit points. So this is a very, for example, that would be a typical, whoops, I need one more. This would be a very typical Fomorian Bless. Awake. You could go with something imprisoned. If I was going imprisoned, I'd probably do it Earth Mother. Save a lot of money, a lot of points. But then your initial expansion. But you can expand just fine if we back up. Whoops. You can expand just fine with just Nemedians. So you could just not bother buying any sacreds for the first while. These guys are fine. They're excellent.
Seem to be very good staple troops.
Yeah, absolutely. The trouble is if you use that alternating recruitment, and I'll show you an example. This is my test game.
No, rec points or what?
We'll have a look here. So this whole thing about how you recruit them, let's see if this works. So see, by alternating which one I buy, every square is full because they're alternating. So that's 6 size points per square, plus you get 1 magic weapon, 2 attacks per square. You can actually throw some javelins. If you set hold and fire, they'll toss a few javelins. And then you could bless them.
Now, this was just supposition, but it would seem to me that just putting the unmarked in front of the median warriors would have the same effect, just slightly slower.
Would they join together into a square as they meld?
Yeah, they should. Since it's a size 2 and a size 4, the unmarked can't stack in the same square, but
maybe
still move into them.
Maybe they would. It's good, except that the median squares will have 3.
Well, but then the medians will move into the unmarked squares.
Maybe. That's a great idea. I should try it. I'll try it in this test game.
I'm also curious if the medians and unmarked have the same combat speed.
Very close, 12 to 11. So
okay, that should be mostly okay then.
Yeah, they're pretty close.
It's only bad if then the medians are faster, because then
that's right.
They form groups of 3 and there's not enough space even if somebody dies for an unmarked to move into the square.
Good point.
So as long as the unmarked are faster.
The main purpose of the unmarked is not so much to kill, it's to soak a lot of damage. And then regen it. And then
that they can take hits.
Right. And then, by mid game your magi are doing the work.
Yeah, and then a regen resistance bless with fog warriors up is pretty
brutal.
Pretty tough to kill.
Yeah.
A bunch of
and if you've got fog warriors, you've got wailing winds, so you're doing a double whammy there. No, wailing winds is evil. Sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, they're fine evocation nation as well.
Oh, you're going to want your evil, yeah, because you want storm. And and then you want to be lightning bolting and thunder striking. See, in the early game, I used a lot of lightning bolt because all of my druids could do it. And then if you look at Formoria's mage lineup, this is kind of your workhorse. And when you're broke, you buy a bunch of the Firbolg druids. And like most nations with Firbolgs, if you want to save some money, you could just do this. You know, you can expand just fine with big wads of Firbolgs. Particularly the Javelin guys. And if you need a little more damage, you can add in some axe guys. So if you need to save money, because Nemedians are pricey, the other trouble with Nemedians is to get real advantage of them, you got to buy a few of these guys and they're capital only.
Hello.
Hey, who's here?
Pax.
Oh, hey Pax. How you doing, Pax?
I'm doing good.
We are doing a review of Early Age Ulm for Jon here. Just covering, and he's got two opponents he's sort of thinking about how he's going to deal with.
Is he playing in DE or normal?
Normal.
Alright, then they're monsters in DE.
Yeah. But,
Not really.
but anyways...
I just mean like, they're free ghosts and stuff. And it's like,
Ulm?
Yeah, they get
It's
an
not free.
item that free spawns. I know, but they get an item that free spawns ghost, sacred ghosts that do like 30 damage. And everything.
Oh, good grief. Okay. One of Rob's weirdnesses. I don't know all the... Rob adds so much funky national specialties that...
Yeah, every nation in DE can play as a sacred nation of its kind of annoying, but it's possible on literally everybody.
Well, the one I did was, I was Soromatia, and he had those sacred... they're like an undead Nemedian, is what they are. You know, they're these, but undead. So they're amphibious, sacred, and all of this. They were crazy. Just crazy. Anyways, that's kind of diverting a bit, but we are talking a vanilla game. I mean, my game, the mods here, they're all just utility mods, rather than anything that has a really major effect on... None of these mods have any significant effect on Pretender design. And I just opened this up as an example, but yeah, that's my Pretender. I'm sort of...
Pretender, actually.
Yeah, but I sort of... Two things I regretted. One was I should have just taken the big bull. Would have been more hit points. And the second was I wish I'd at least either gone for Earth 4 for reinvigoration, which would have been very nice, or Earth 5 for fire shock resist. I think I only got one more scale by dropping it to 2, and that was probably an error. Anyways, that happens. But, you know, then you get stuff like this, right? I mean, that's a lucky 10% random, so that's an extremely valuable guy. I'm gonna be... If I had that in the real game, I'd be twice borning him.
And it was always funny when you get the Air 5 High Seraph.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, totally. And see, these guys...
Or D2 High Seraph. It's like, oof, amazing.
And in some ways, this is the best set of randoms for a king, because you can always throw one gem on to get Soul Vortex, if you can get some Reinvigoration. And again, that's where I kind of wish I'd gotten Reinvigoration Bless. But now you've got a couple extra buffs, and some useful ones, particularly Breath of Winter. Although I'm fighting Therados, so that's not terribly helpful.
New liquid body, too.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Liquid body, you'd lose some strength and speed, but because, I mean, if we look at my...
I mean, they don't kill that fast without a weapon anyway.
No, but here's my
And if you give
sort
them
of...
a killy weapon, then they don't care about strength as much.
No, exactly, and for Formoria, this thing's a heck of a nice weapon. little bit pricey, but the
The
stat.
same price as the 5 then.
Well, they have so much strength that losing 4 is not the end of the world to them.
No, not at all. Your issue with the Formorian giants is it's hard to kill large amounts until you get Soul Vortex. But this guy, the boost to the stats, and you can also see that I tended to use a lot of stone birds. That was to help with repel and killing junk.
Aren't they a good defensive item as well?
They are really
About
good
4
defensive
defense
knife. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, 2, but like 5 and 4
Okay,
attacks,
Okay.
and they do repel. Again, they're not, and this is all because you get lots of earth and air. See, you do want to buy a fair amount of the plain druids for forging, because they open up some useful paths and they're cheap. And they're good research monkey.
Yeah, and since all you get is Earth 1, it's fine if you use them as Earth mages, because you're not gonna... Like, they're the most efficient Earth mages you have to.
Yes, and other than heroes, I don't think you get any Earth heroes. Like some of the heroes I got were these...
Don't you have an Earth hero?
I haven't got them yet, if there is one. The heroes...
Okay, I guess I thought I saw one, but it might have been hidden by the... I guess I was wrong.
In my real game, I got her. She's nice.
She has...
Lost you there, Rovsea.
But she has... As far as the cat, it's an SAP.
Yeah, she's got...
You're dying.
Yeah, but that's okay. I know what he's saying. She's got a lot of nice benefits, as long as you don't get her killed. And then, in my real game, but I'm not going to open it on the stream, I also got the hero that's immortal and is otherwise basically a typical Namibian sorceress with water, like this, a little bit stronger. She's got death for the hero. So, but immortal's kind of nice. So, nice heroes. Some quite useful ones. And it's nice to get, I got this guy, so that's handy. Although, in some ways this guy's more useful. Another reason I sort of regretted not getting more earth is once the pig or the bull has done their job, I could have made some hammers. Because after expansion, this isn't much use for anything but site searching and forging. Because of the total lack of slots, it's just way too easy to cloud debris on top of these guys and wipe them out. So they don't have a lot of late game utility. Even if given that you can do some buffing and stuff. But I knew that the game I was going into was quite a tight map, lots of aggressive players, so I felt that I needed the ability to expand quickly and push my borders. In a different game, a little bigger, maybe with not expecting quite as many, I might have gone for dormant and then better scales. But this is just for Jon's sake to sort of give an example of some of the things a Formoria player might pull out. I mean, this is a very expensive set of gear, but that's also a very expensive mage, so kind of a tricky decision. And I think I've already mentioned, this is the kind of thing I'm fighting. So if you're fighting that, now it turns out using kings against it was a mistake, and we've talked about that earlier today. Much more cost effective to just use a cheap druid thug and chop these guys up. And that's a good point with Formoria. The Fomorian druids, 200 gold with a couple of cheap items, and they can self-buff themselves with flying. The nature ones can self-buff with poison resistance. The water ones with liquid body. Bark skin. You've got and mist form. So, you throw 10 gems worth of a couple of little weapons, Well, I can show you one of the examples, I think, of one of the things I did use was I bought some flesh eaters. I don't know where they went, but I also made some daggers. So any one of a number of daggers with a flesh eater is going to chop up a super combatant pretty quick. And if you lose it, well, big deal. You know, you spent 5 or 10 gems. Well, and these are only slaves. And 200 gold is not a bad price for something to chop up. You know, something like that crazy giant Etten there. So, John, have we kind of covered, sort of in a quick and dirty, the kinds of threats that you're going to be want to watch for?
Yeah, but also I think that you guys are very, very advanced in your thinking.
For
so
sure.
You might gloss over easy things like I know you mentioned that they could buff like flying and stuff. Does that mean that they can technically hit me anyway?
No. Well,
No.
with Cloud Trapeze, yes. So Cloud Trapeze is here in the Mataji.
No, I think he's talking about in combat, not in the.
I meant also at the tactical and strategic level as well.
At the strategic level, Formoria is going to use this on you like crazy. So he's going to land on your, if you've got exposed armies that aren't ready, he's going to land on you if you're fighting him with thugs, with Cloud Trapeze, and hurt you bad. Yep. The other thing he's going to do is he's going to throw air elementals at you.
Right. But I'm sure I'm going to spam earth elementals back.
You're going to lose.
Yeah, it is.
Earth elementals to air elementals is not even close, because by the time your earth elementals get in combat, your leaders are dead. Because the air elementals have trample and a shock
If
attack.
you bring air 3 on the Pretender, you can put up storm and then you can do your own air elementals.
True. But I'm just.
Have left of it, and it would
But you don't have that.
But the other spell we need to mention here is really early in the game at 2, all of his kings and druids can make themselves fly in combat. This is a cheap spell, easy to cast.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I don't think it has a massive bonus necessarily when fighting like Ulm or something.
Well, I used it. Well, look at my script that I used on the kings.
Like, flight is best when you can target something like large archers or cavalry.
Or rear.
That's when flight shines, because then you know what they're going to hit. If you do attack rear, they can go basically anywhere on the rear half of the map.
Well, and that depends on the abilities of your opponent. If your opponent isn't expecting it and sends all his guys rushing forward and leaves his commanders back, perfect.
Well, one of the issues is that if they have people guarding their mages, then they can basically you can be stuck right in front of their mages for a few turns of spellcasts, and it's a good way to kill an otherwise not gonna die super combatant.
Yeah. I'm not saying this is. It works depending on situation, so on and so forth. But I did very successfully snipe quite a few of his, like the Therados player is using his Hecaterides and his Melias as thugs, and with a bunch of ghosts in front. So I just waited, I stayed back, let the ghosts run forward, did attack rear, and killed the commanders. And then all the ghosts ran away. There's easy ways to solve that, but it really depends. And a new player may not know the scripting tricks to stop flyer sniping of commanders. But I'm just kind of listing for John the kind of threat vectors that he's likely to see from these two nations. So we'll probably pop out of here.
But we also have to remember that every single, I think the most experienced player in that game, he's currently playing in 2 other new games, and that's it. That's his entire career. He's currently playing in 2 other games.
Okay, but let's assume that they're doing the same thing you are, which is getting a whole pile of experienced advice before the game starts. So they may be doing exactly the same thing you are, which is going over to immersion, jumping into this, talking to a bunch of experienced players, and they're going to jump into that game with a very, very well-developed strategy for that nation. They have that same ability to do it that you're doing, because you're going to be jumping into this game with strategies well advanced compared to regular new player strategies. So if you want to sort of, if you want to anticipate,
I'm fairly stupid, man. So we need to take account for that.
Well, okay, I wasn't going to call you stupid.
No. But I did, and it was.
No, I know. Self-deprecating humor, yeah.
Yes.
I got it.
Yeah. Anyways,
Thank you.
but I mean, okay, Pax is a new player, right?
Yeah.
But Pax has been hanging out in these chats. He's been hanging out in questions. He's been hanging out at immersion. I bet you Pax can probably put together some pretty darn advanced strategies.
Okay, and how many dollars does he want for this?
Yeah, exactly. So,
I'll take a cookie.
yeah. Oh,
Nice.
somebody made a comment. Oh, I got some comments in text. The bird. Sorry about that, Colin P. Let's jump back and answer your question. Hopefully you're still hanging around in the chat here. The stone bird, like all weapons attack 1 square, unless they have an area of effect larger than 1 square. There's not many of those. I can show you one. Where's that thing? There it is. This guy has a large area of effect, right? Yeah, area of effect 5. So it'll hit 5 squares. That's very, very rare. But the stone bird will only hit 1 square, but it'll hit that same square 4 times. Main weapon a different square than the bird. I'm not quite sure. You guys know? Do you think that like a miscellaneous extra weapon will hit a different square?
Multiple weapons can hit multiple squares, but generally they'll focus on the same square until it's empty and then move to a new one. The stone bird can only ever hit the same attacker, I believe.
You mean all 4 of its attacks will hit the same guy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That I didn't know. I could have probably looked at the log, but my battle logs for this test game get absolutely stuffed with stuff, so it's a little hard to see.
I have seen missing 4th attacks before, looking at the log, so it's, for the stone bird, it's actually pretty confusing.
Sorry, when I was actually doing the turn, it can or it can't? It can attack like a different square, it can't.
So you can attack a different square, but you can't, not with the, so let's say you have 2 frost brands. The first frost brand clears a square. The second frost brand can hit an additional square, right?
Yeah.
The only way a single weapon can hit multiple squares unless it has a large AoE like that one, in 1 round of combat is if you have quickness, because then you attack 2 separate times with each weapon in the singular round of combat.
So just to review, okay, so let's see if we can clarify. A miscellaneous item that acts as a weapon like the dancing trident or the stone bird, what you're saying is will usually attack the same square that the weapons in their hand attacks.
Yes.
Okay. But might, maybe, attack a different square.
I have a test game. I can look it up real quick and see what it shows.
But the other thing Rovsea's saying, and I can't confirm or deny, is that all 4 of the attacks from the stone bird will hit the same guy until he's dead. Right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Whereas this dancing trident, which has better statistics in some ways, or more damage, but only has a single attack. And there's some funny stuff related to repel with these things, but I can confirm that the stone bird does repel. I have all kinds of log
if you
examples.
look at the log that I just posted in the text, so it hits with the first attack and it kills the target with the stone bird. I tested it versus swarm because I knew it could one hit whatever it was hitting, so that way it would be really easy to see if the additional attacks hit additional targets.
Yeah, perfect.
But as you can see, each of the additional attacks rolls versus the already dead target and do nothing.
Oh, bummer. Okay. So it's a little bit wasted on really wimpy targets.
Yeah, a little bit.
But I'm fighting ghosts, and it has a hard time hitting them at the best of time. So it's a really useful item. I mean, I could argue that with certain kinds of thugs, you know, a druid with this and misform could probably take out a lot of stuff. Cheap stuff.
I think I'll be off.
All right, John. All right, take
See ya.
care.
See ya.
Okay, well that
Pretty
kind
sure that
of.
was Jackal.
That
Yeah,
was
I'm still
Jackler.
here.
Sorry, John.
It's fine.
But I also posted, I think, pretty good evidence that you can hit multiple squares.
Yeah, there you
In
go.
the thing around the combat.
Yeah, no, that's quite clear. How many weapons? That guy's just using his regular plus
He's
a
using,
stone bird.
So the 2 pictures correspond. You can tell by the damage outputs.
Yeah. So you've got.
So he has 3 weapons: the hoof, the lance, and the stone bird, and he's hitting 3 different targets and 2 different squares.
Right. Okay. Alrighty. Well, we've come to the 2 hours, so I'm going to wind down. And we can. I'll be back online. It's Thursday, right? I haven't lost track, have I? Yeah, it's Thursday, so I'll be back online same time tomorrow. And then I'll take the weekend off. I don't want to try to schedule streaming on the weekend unless it just is a drop-in session. My son comes to visit every second weekend, and I focus on stuff with him.
That's good.
Yeah. So thanks a bunch for the guests, Rovsea, Pax, John, Jackalor. I'll probably toss you guys when this goes up over to YouTube. I usually put a little shout out to my guests, and I doubt anybody of you are that'll bother you to have your name on the video.
No.
If you don't want your
No, I
name
don't
on the
know.
video, let me know. And Rovsea, thank you so much for being a regular. It's been good.
No problem.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Like I said, I'll be back tomorrow. Have a good day.
See ya.
Bye-bye.